Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann, and I am a professional network marketer, an actor, and also an EFT practitioner. And today I'm joined by Pete Mackintosh. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you. Pete is all the way in Hobart in Tasmania, so I'm going to touch on that in a minute. But just for those people who've never met Pete before, he is the founder of Rock Band Academy and also the creator of My Money Revolution, which sounds really exciting. Looking forward to hearing about that. So yeah, let's start with, what's it like living in Hobart? Hobart.
It's sometimes it has a bit of it's a great place to live, Julie. Let's start with there. But it has a nickname in Australia as being called Slow Bart. Well, not even really in Australia. Actual native Hobartians, as they're called, Hobartians, they kind of ridicule themselves a little bit because we're an island at the bottom of a fairly small country. It has a bit of a reputation for being a little bit behind the times, and it just used to have a name called Slow Bart. But
right, but you're not.
We've changed that now. Well, we've changed that now. It's gotten much more groovy. So we've been living here for 7 years, and
you've made the place groovy.
It's a groovier place.
Groove. You are the groove. Yeah.
It's so not just me, but there's been a lot of people come from the mainland Australia to Tasmania because it's a real, it's a real beautiful place to live in, a bit of an untapped gold mine down here for lifestyle. It's a great lifestyle.
Fabulous. Okay.
A lot of cultural stuff. A lot of great cultural stuff.
Like
we have a museum here called Mona, and that started just before we moved here. I think it's about 8 or 9 years old. Mona, Museum of New and Old Art. It's a very edgy place, and it's got a lot of a buzz in the world, in the art world, and even just in mainstream circles, tourism world. There's people flocking here to that museum. And the people that have lived here, Julie, before Mona and after Mona, they just say it's like night and day. There's this expression that in Hobart, it's at the most southern part of Australia, so it's a little cool in the winter. And they used to say that in April, at the end of autumn here, the last tourists would fly back to Australia and they would turn the lights out. And Hobart would go into hibernation, and they would come back in the spring in October, and the lights would come back on. So,
oh, that's funny. Yeah,
that's all changed now. Yeah.
So I know that there's such a species as the Tasmanian devil, isn't there? Tell us more about that.
Well, the devils, and the tigers. The tigers we don't have around anymore, but the devils have made a strong comeback. They had, they still have a big problem with facial tumor disease. I don't know if you know about that, Julie, but it was a big problem, and they were starting to, really die out in a lot of big numbers. So they've had a very successful rebreeding campaign, and they've sort of taken some little pods of the animals to other sort of biosecurity places in other parts of Australia and the world so that they could breed them. And they've also done breeding programs on some small islands off the bigger island here. And it's been very successful to breed Tassie devils without this facial tumor disease that was killing a lot of them.
Wow. I mean, I've got no idea what the creature looks like, actually. And I'm sure
really?
people listening don't.
Little black. It's like a little black, I don't know, like a small little wombat that moves much faster. It's black, and it's got a little white ring around its tail. And it's got some very sharp teeth and extremely strong jaw. It's an omnivore. It just eats anything. And just when they eat the kill, they just crunch through the bones, the whole thing.
Hence the devil, I imagine.
Absolute scavengers they are, yeah. But they're pretty cute.
Okay, so moving on. Moving on. Have you always loved rock music?
Well, from a fairly young age, I guess probably teenage years is probably the earliest I can remember really getting into rock. Yeah, I mean, I remember when Thriller came out, Michael Jackson's Thriller. So what year was that, Julie? 81,
It's a
82,
while back, Pete.
early 80s. So I was, I might have been 9 or 10 something. And my sister got the album. I remember sitting around the stereo player and watching that big black disc spin around. It's like, this is pretty awesome. So Michael Jackson's not really rock, but I guess he was pop music. And from there, through my sister, I was the youngest of 4 kids. I'm still the youngest, I guess, of 4 kids. I'll always be the youngest, won't I? My sister, I got the hand-me-downs, right? As the youngest, you get the hand-me-down clothes, you get the hand-me-down musical tastes. And my sister was into bands with, flamboyant men at the front. So In Excess, she was way into In Excess and Duran Duran and that sort of early 80s pop music. So I got exposed to all that. And from there, I think I went to more of the Aussie pub rock type stuff. And then once I picked up the guitar in 1988, it was all Guns N' Roses, right? It was, if you could play Sweet Child of Mine on the guitar, you were an absolute god at school. And I couldn't play the lead bit, but I was in a band where there was a guy next to me and he was playing it and I was up there and we were doing that song, Sweet Child, and we were gods, sort of, our own little ecosystem. We were rock gods. So once I got on the guitar and got a great guitar teacher, and it was a great time for guitar in the late 80s into the 90s, and I was off to the races with the guitar and playing rock music. So
brilliant. So what led you in the end to setting up the academy, which I think has been going for about 5 years, hasn't it?
Correct. Yes. Well, we moved here to Tasmania 7 years ago, and prior to that, where I was living, I had a guitar school. So I taught guitar for about 4 or 5 years, and that was quite successful. But what I found, Julie, was when I got the guitar's quite a hard instrument, especially for little kids. It's a big thing. It's got 6 strings. It's quite inherently complex. You've got 2 hands to get synchronized. There's a lot in it. So I had a whole bunch of other instruments sitting around my studio other than guitars. I had, drums and keyboards and all sorts of little percussion instruments, microphones for singing. And I found once when we do a jam session in the school holidays, I'd sort of mix up the program. And when we just sort of do a jam, and half the kids would just put the guitars down because you just don't need 5 guitarists in a band. So 3 of them would pick up other things, the keyboard, percussion, grab the microphone, do a bit of rapping, and just leave a couple of people on the guitar. And they weren't, I hadn't trained them on these instruments, but I just give them a real basic little thing to do. And they just sounded much better. And they felt it, and I felt it. It's like, wow, it's better when we don't have 5 guitarists and, just 2, and then some other people do something else. So that's when the light bulb kind of came on for me, that people need to be in, ensembles. Kids want to be in bands, and a band isn't really 5 guitarists all playing away. So it just made more sense to balance it out with, bass players and drummers and singers and keyboard players.
And it's not about the playing, is it? It's about being part of something. It's more fun when you're with a group of people and you're all kind of part of creating something together.
Exactly. Yep. And they feel the power that I'm not that good on this instrument, but when we all do our part at the right time, or even close to the right time, it sounds pretty good. And it can be really powerful. It's like, I just need to do my little bit, and if they're doing their little bit, we can make music together, and it can sound cool.
Wow. I mean, I had a recorder. I hadn't got a clue how to play it at school, but I used to just blow through it, and I ended up
torturous the recorder, huh?
Thrown out of the orchestra. That's another story. But anyway, when you decided to set up your Rock Band Academy, did you have people going, Pete, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Get a real job.
I've been having that for years, Julie. I remember I taught music at a music shop in Geelong, and the owner, he was of Dutch descent, and he was just talking about the difference between Europe the ideology in Europe of a musician, professional musician, and Australia. And he said, in Europe, you know, it's kind of more highly valued to be a professional musician. It's a little bit, got a little bit of respect. In Australia, he's like, the first question you get, oh, you're a musician? What does your wife do for work?
And your wife's an osteopath, isn't she?
She is, yeah, she is.
So yeah.
And a full-time homeschooling mum, I might add. That's a big job of hers as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Got 2 full-time jobs.
Wow. Okay. So you say that actually it was experiencing profitability in the academy that then led you to creating your course, My Money Revolution. So did you struggle at the beginning of, you know, when you set up the academy, did you struggle at the beginning?
Oh, absolutely.
So tell us about that.
Mountains of struggle. It was just a really haphazard approach, I guess, to business, Julie. Just winging it, just, you know, feeling my way around in the dark with just a lack of support, a lack of a framework of how am I going to run this thing? How does this work? There were no goals or milestones. It was just really just feeling my way around in the dark. So as a result, you know, the results were they were haphazard. I was getting some students, people were coming, kids were getting good results, parents are really happy. We were growing, but I had no idea really of the numbers. I wasn't looking at the numbers closely enough. It's just the only number that mattered was there enough money in the bank to pay the commercial rent this month, right? So I wasn't paying myself a regular wage or salary. I wasn't taking regular profits. It was survival mode, really. It's like, I've just got to keep surviving, keep growing, and get the revenue up so that there might be something kind of left for me at the end. But that just wasn't happening. And as the revenue did grow, so did my taste in professional development. And so I was spending more. And I just bought so much stuff, and it just got so bloated with software and team members and coaches and courses and equipment, just too much stuff relative to the revenue that I had. It was just, the spending was out of control. So I ended up getting some help with that. And
so who helped you, Pete?
I got a profit coach.
Okay.
I didn't know that was a thing, but hey, you can have a life coach, you have a business coach, you can have a fitness coach, a health coach, a strength coach. You can have a profit coach, Julie. And I've got one.
That's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Because, you know, everybody wants to be profitable in business, but actually, like you say, probably most people actually are floundering about thinking, yeah, I've got this really great idea, and they're so kind of preoccupied with the idea and that, you know, that's their baby or whatever, that actually they forget that with any business you need some sort of structure, some daily method of operation. There needs to be some sort of framework for it all.
Absolutely.
So, but then a lot of people come up against the fact that, well, they don't have the money. They don't have the money.
Where would I find that sort of help? Could I afford that sort of help? And they're just usually so busy in the day-to-day kind of grind, because they're a, you know, solopreneur. Maybe they've got a team member or two, and they're just wearing so many hats, juggling so many balls, that they just don't get around to, like, well, let's look at the numbers. And all they end up doing is having the accountant sending the shoebox at the end of the year to the accountant with the mess of receipts, and the accountant just says, okay, you've made whatever this amount this year, and you know you need to pay this amount of tax. It's all looking sort of backwards. It's all really too late by that stage to do anything proactively. So, but once I got a profit coach, you know, she had a look at the numbers, and there it was. She just put it on the spreadsheet and said, okay, this is what the 97% of the revenue you bring in the door goes out to someone else. And I'm just going, right, so 3% for me and 97%. It's just, once you sort of get that slap in the face, it's like, this is ridiculous. It was embarrassing, right, to be with a profit coach and have them tell you it's this 3% after the 100%. It's 3%.
And probably from her perspective, completely normal as well, which is why.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because I imagine people struggle with the same sort of thing, don't they? I mean, in your experience, typically, what do people struggle with around their business?
Well, I think it's a lack of support generally in small businesses. There's just a lack of structure, a lack of support. There's a lack of accountability. It's that whole entrepreneurial freedom. I want to be free to make my own schedule and work when I want and do what I want when I want and wake up when I want. And it just doesn't really work that well. It's too much freedom. So then entrepreneurs are just spinning their wheels, going down too many rabbit holes, and there's nobody watching them, Julie. There's nobody watching us. There was nobody watching me, and I was just on a spending binge. And internet marketers, they are so good at their copywriting. They know that they push on your buttons, and out comes the credit card and say, yes, sign me up. I'll buy that thing. I must. They've told me I need this software. I must have it. All the gurus have it. I must have it. I can't afford it. And once you get this profit framework in there and you just go, now the decisions are made for me. I can't afford it. There's no money in that bank account for that thing. It'll have to wait. I'll have to save up for it. So it's just a total mindset shift, as opposed to I'll just whip the card out, and if there's no credit left on the card, I'll get credit from somewhere else, or I'll just spend all my salary. It just madness of spending.
Yeah, I mean, you said that there was no one watching you, but I imagine that somewhere your wife was watching you, and also, no, she wasn't. But also,
she wasn't.
Were you kind of hiding what was happening, or kind of no, it was all right?
She's not interested in the numbers, and she doesn't watch. Yeah, it's just not. Yeah.
But for you, I mean, were you kind of just?
I didn't know either. I didn't know. I was just spend work. Just let's get some more bums on seats, and it'll be all right. If I can just get another 10 people through the door, I can afford this spending.
Yeah. So the minute
and that's when the profit coach just said, that's the same mindset that all my clients, they all come in with the whole, if I can just increase the top end revenue, it'll all be fine at the back. And she's like, no, we start with cutting the fat.
Yeah.
And once she showed me, put that framework around me, and I was like, okay, she set some goals for how we're going to change the percentages. I just went to the business with a torch, Julie. I was off to the races. Like I'm a bit manic. I'm slightly manic, as you might have worked out already. And once it became clear to me that I was just blowing all my money, basically, on this professional development and software and team and all this, I was trying to be a big or medium-sized business on a micro-sized business budget.
You still thought you were a rock god, Pete?
Yeah, yes. And look, here's the thing: the small, medium-sized business, larger business, they have a finance department. There's checks and balances. You couldn't do what I did. Somebody would tap you on the shoulder and say, you're out of control, you're out, or you pull that in line, or you're out next week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's reporting, checks and balances, people checking on each other. And in small business, unless you hire someone or put a framework around yourself, then you're a law unto yourself, and then it's very dangerous.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's when I got coaching. I got the framework. I paid people to keep an eye on me, and just knowing that they're watching, that someone's going to look at these numbers at the end of the month, and if I haven't made an improvement, I'm going to be embarrassed. Just that makes you. It keeps you honest. That's what.
Brilliant. Okay, so tell us about what you actually do then. So your My Money Revolution course. What is it that you actually teach people?
So I help them get transfer. It's about getting radical transparency on the numbers. So it's a full unpacking of where the numbers are at right now. So that's a big part of it. Let's just unpack. Let's get inside your accounting software, the bank statement, wherever that money's been living. Let's unpack that and see where the money's going. What's coming in, what's going out. It's not that complicated, Julie, but it's profound once you see this is what you make. This is what goes out the door. That's what's left here. So that's part of it, unpacking where the money's coming in and going out. And then the next part is remodeling the program so that more money goes towards the profit account for the entrepreneur.
Brilliant.
And it's really quite simple, but quite profound. So, and then of course with any change, there's difficulty with the mindset of having to go through that sort of change, and people left to their own devices can fall off the wagon. So that's when a coach, a team member, supporting person can help them through the speed bumps, normalize the fact that it's difficult to make the change, and help them transition and transform.
Are you also teaching people around their mindset too, as well as the kind of practical, unpacking and then looking
remodeling? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It does have to start with a mindset shift that if you want to be more profitable, you have to surrender to the possibility that right now it's not doing as well as it could.
Yeah. So with you personally, Pete, when you work with a profitability coach and you unpacked everything, how quick was the turnaround for you between, your business not being profitable and then, you seeing that profit and that growth?
Extremely quick, a few months. Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Well, it was even from the first month, just from having the percentages laid out clearly. The first month was already more profitable, but I think I had like a 20x turnaround, something like that, within about 9 months. It was massive.
Amazing. And I guess as well, the whole energy around struggling, before you work with that woman, it's not great, is it? Because it does affect you when you're kind of thinking, oh, well, the next month it'll all be fine. And, you're just getting by and you're not able to kind of really enjoy life and really, experience things in the way perhaps you'd like to.
When you're just not getting
that, yeah,
you're not getting rewarded for your effort. That's just this.
Yeah.
People need to get rewarded. So what I found, Julie, was when I started to get more profitable, I started showing up to my business in a better way. I delivered a better service because I now sort of went, okay, I actually get paid a decent wage. I'm getting paid real money now. So I better show up and do a really good job. It was quite profound. It's like, okay, this is a real business now. So it's gone from this hobby that is funding my spending habit, and now it's gone to a real business where it's funding my lifestyle.
Fabulous. Yeah. And I imagine as well, you are role modeling success for your family, aren't you? And, it must give you enormous self-respect that you've turned it around and you have a different drive and purpose, and, you can do it yourself knowing that actually it's all covered. Absolutely.
Yeah. And businesses that don't have a healthy profit, Julie, they're not sustainable.
No.
They're not sustainable. The entrepreneur will either burn out, go broke, and have to go back and get a day job, or they'll just peter, just sort of slug it out and just deliver a mediocre service because they're really, they might have to take a second job, or they just don't reach the kind of heights that they deserve to reach. So it's just a crappy place for people to stay stuck in.
Yeah.
In that mediocre, that real mediocrity of a moderately profitable business that's not thriving. You want to be able to thrive. And then the world misses out when these people wash out, burn out, disappear, go broke, or just stay mediocre. Then we miss out on this service provider who quite possibly has a solid service to offer the world.
Yeah, well said. So I know that you have twin boys, don't you?
I do. Yes.
How old are they?
They're 8.
Wow.
8 and a quarter. Yeah.
An 8 and a quarter. That quarter is so important, isn't it? Like Adrian Mull. So obviously, being married,
they're not very profitable, Julie, yet. Wow. The profitability on them is so good.
But having a family, having the academy, also running this course, it all sounds quite full on. How do you manage to find time to spend with the people that you love?
Oh, that's a good one. You've just got to block. You've got to block time. You must frameworks again. You got to block time, make the time. And it is tricky because working from home, my business is run from home, and that's got its advantages and disadvantages. So you really have to, you have to silo off that I'm working, I'm in work mode. I go into my office, close the door, put the Pomodoro on 30 minutes, and I sprint.
So
and then, taking that hat off, and when you go back into family life, leaving the mobile downstairs in the office, and really being fully present with the family and the kids, because that's definitely a challenge. And I'm, not up there with the earbuds in listening to a business podcast when I'm doing family time. It's like, I got to turn that stuff off. I got to be with my kids and be playful dad and loving husband. Otherwise, it's just, it doesn't work.
I love that, and I think that's such an important point. And is that something that you would teach in your course as well, the importance of?
It's a bit beyond the scope of that course, Julie, but my business, My Money Revolution, it's really brand new. It literally just got born a couple of months ago, Julie.
Hot off the press.
Yes, so it's still evolving, but the first program, being Your Business Profitability Blueprint, that is it's a fairly tight, singular sort of focused program, but beyond that, of course, I think I have a lot to offer entrepreneurs. Once they turn their profitability around and get clarity on their numbers, then it's like, well, what's the next step? How can you take me on the next step of the journey? And
brilliant.
Those types of mindsets could certainly be something that we might offer in the future.
Perfect. And I'm going to stick all your links below this video so people can click on the link and go straight to you. But I'm just really curious to know, what would you like people watching to know about you, Pete?
Ooh, wow. In what regard?
In any regard. Answer the question how you like.
I'm a huge people person, so I love interacting with people. So I just get a lot of energy from people. I'm fascinated with peak performance and the human condition. What makes people tick? What makes us do what we do? I'm totally fascinated with that. So that's a constant area of study, self-reflection, on testing on myself. I always test on myself, and then observing others and interacting with others. So that's one of my big things is peak performance and just being around other people and helping people transform, helping people get unstuck, because we all get stuck in different areas. And I've just had so many fabulous mentors in the last, I would say, 8 years of really getting into the business entrepreneurial space, that you just keep making new breakthroughs, and one breakthrough in one area of life, it just, the domino effect, right? It just opens up like, for example, I'm a songwriter, and I've just restarted a habit of doing 10 minutes a day of creative writing in the morning, first thing. And I got a special book for it. And I put it out the night before. I read a great book on habits the new year, Atomic Habits.
I've read that. It's fantastic.
James Clear, fabulous book. And it just, what are the 4 things, the principles? Make it obvious, the habit. So the book, my songwriting, my lyric writing book, it's obvious. Make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. They're his 4 success keys to a successful habit. So I got this book, I put it on the kitchen table before I go to bed. It's obvious, it's there. The page is ready to open. So that's the obvious one. And then what's the next one? Make it attractive. The book has got it says I'm a songwriter on the front. It's a custom made thing by my wife. So it's attractive to me. Make it easy. Well, it's just there. It's just 10 minutes. I've got a prompt on the internet where the word of the day, I go to a website where they give you the word, and the 10-minute timer immediately starts running. So that's easy. I just open that website, a word flashes in front of me, the 10-minute timer starts, and then make it satisfying. Well, it's satisfying because I'm on this streak, I'm up to day 40 or whatever, and I just want to keep that. I don't want to break the chain of winning days where I'm doing my creative writing habits. So that domino effect of making a breakthrough in one area of your life, however small, pushes you forward to go, well, what else could I what else could I transform on? If I can do that every day, which I couldn't do. I've started this habit a couple of times and stalled. If I can do that, what's next? What else can I do? So
I guess it's not that you couldn't, it's just that you wouldn't, isn't it? You just decided not to.
Yeah. Of course. Well, it again didn't have the frame, did I? I didn't have my book with the page. I didn't have that app with the word. It didn't have that system. And that's what James Clear in Atomic Habits, he says he's less about goals focused and is more about system focused. If you create the system, the goal will be a byproduct. You'll achieve a goal.
Yeah. If
you show up to your system every day or whatever the frequency is. So.
Yeah,
so that was just a mindset shift for me when I listened to that book from him, just talking about. And so this year I've been on a bit of a mission to just to get more stuff done, Julie, and and follow up and do what I say I'm going to do. The things I put on my calendar, like honor them, show up to them. Don't put them in there if you're not going to, and just don't push things aside. And you show up for the appointments for yourself. Like I'll always show up for someone else, but I was skimping out on showing up for my own appointments for creative writing, songwriting, and I would push it aside and say I'll do it tomorrow, and 2 weeks later nothing's happened. So
and that's one of the things that's really can take away from our self-esteem is the not doing what we say we're going to do. So that's a really, really great great thing to be doing. I've actually started learning French. And I do it on Duolingo, and I've done it for almost 300 days, and it feels really good. And it's just that habit. But if there's not a structure for it, then and you miss that habit one day, sometimes getting back to that is a really challenging thing. So I'm really proud of
300 days.
Yeah.
Yes. Atomic Habits. He talks about never miss twice.
Yeah.
That's his thing. Never miss twice. You miss once, okay, occasionally you can do that, but never. Once you miss 2 days in a row, we're going down, right?
Slope. Yeah.
We're off the wagon. So habits are so powerful.
So we're obviously a big, James Clear fan.
Yes.
So, in a sentence, look at his face. In a sentence.
One sentence?
Yeah, can you keep it to a sentence? Tell us how you would like to be remembered.
Ooh. As a go-getter.
Wow. That's it, not even a sentence.
That was a short sentence, wasn't
it? Love it. You don't have to add to it. That's absolutely fantastic. But anything else that you'd really, really like to say, Pete, before we go?
Just that if anyone's watching and they are, entrepreneurial and they're in a business and they're struggling to get some help. Don't stay stuck so long. There's so much great help out there, Julie. From free podcasts to buying a book for $20 to the next level, getting one-on-one coaching or group coaching. There's so many levels of support you can get. And I think there's just so many entrepreneurs that stay in their little echo chamber and their home office for too long, and they don't get out enough, and they just struggle unnecessarily. So I just would urge people to take action, get out there, get help. Put support around you, because it's just not human to stay at home on your own in your office and not surround yourself with a team of people who are supporters, whether they're peers or people that you hire or a mixture of both. You've got to have a support team, a support crew. You've got to have people cheering you on, Julie.
Totally.
It's tough. It's tough in business, getting started, getting traction. So you've got to have people in your corner. You've got to have people cheering you on. So I would say, get a cheer squad.
Yeah. And if you want a cheerleader, reach out to Pete. The links are going to be below this video. Thank you, Pete, so very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having me.